So the lab portion of today, downloaded already. So I'm going to talk about it because this is another non-cookbook style lab. This one actually is two-part. Copy all this out of here and put it in C cart. Make your own too. All right. So this is the second of the two exercises where you have more latitude. So you might have to refer back to previous information, and if you have questions, ask me or Chris or Corey, and be able to help you. All right. So today you're going to create a map, and it's a little more focused than the last Make Your Own. The last Make Your Own basically said you could do whatever you want. Here, the requirement is that you're going to create a county level core plus map and a proportional point symbol map. You're going to create two maps, and they're both going to be those categories. So these are the requirements for the county level core plus map. Okay? The data that you're going to get actually has a column that represents population in 2000 and population in 2010. And you're going to make a map as of population change as a percent of the total 2010 population. Okay? So what does that mean? Well, we're going to take the difference between 2000 and 2010 and divide that by the 2010 population. Okay? Now, we did a little bit of table manipulation before, but just in case, I'll go over that again real quick. All right, so we got to open up ArcMap for that, and we're basically going to add a new column and then calculate population change into that new column so that we can make a map of population change. And the other tricky thing here is that our map, I want you to make your map so that it includes Alaska and Hawaii, but not Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. So just the states, the 50 states. So you're going to, probably the most effective way to do that is to make an inset map. If you can come up with another clever way to do it, that's fine. But I'll also talk about making an inset map again, so that you have those tools fresh in your mind. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just add the data. So the data is in C, cart, counties.shape. So here's the counties data that we have. And one thing that I think I point out is that you can reuse any of the additional, you can reuse any of the data that you got from the last lab in this lab if you want to make the map look better. But you don't have to, that's not a requirement. All right. Okay, so I've got all of this data. It doesn't even include USVI or Puerto Rico, so that's okay. So let's go and open up the attribute table. Right-click on the counties and say Open Attribute Table. And if you'll notice, I made the columns so that there's one called Pop 2010 and Pop 2000. So, I want to do population change. Remember, with the Core Plus map, you always want to use derived data. Typically, you make your data derived by normalizing it by area. But another way to do it is to normalize it by another field. Okay? Making population change is not or particularly percent population change, is not a total, it's a derived value. So it doesn't really matter if the population went from 100 to 200, or if it went from 1,000 to 2,000, it still has the same percent change. That's what we mean by derived value. So the first thing I have to do is add a new field. Okay. Remember how to do that. it's under this little drop down under the table, and you just say add field. I'm just going to call this P change or percent change or population change. The only thing I'm going to do is make sure that I change this to a float or a double. It doesn't really matter which one of these you choose because we're just going to get percent. So we don't need a whole lot of places after the decimal. That's the difference between float and double. So I'm going to change it to float, and then I'll be good. I'm going to create my column called percent change or P change, population change. So now the only thing left to do is to calculate that value, and I gave you the formula, but we just have to enter it into here. So I should have gone slower there. Right click on P change, say field calculator, and you'll say yes here. Now we can enter the formula in here. Remember the formula was the difference in population divided by the population. Since we actually want percent, we're going to multiply it by 100. That's what percent means. So what I do is say population in 2000 minus population in 2010. Why do I do it in that order? Put population 2010 first, minus 2000. Think about positive and negative numbers. What if the population went from 2,000 to 100? What's the result going to be? Or 2,000 to 1,000? Oh, sorry. If the population in 2010 was 2,000, and the population in 2000 was 1,000, what's the result? What's 2,000 minus 1,000? 1,000. In the other direction, what if it went from we're going from 2,000 to 2,000, and then went down to 2,000 in 2010. What's 1,000 minus 2,000? Negative 1,000. Okay, I'm just reversing it. So why is it an advantage that it's negative? Well, it's a negative number to represent population decline and a positive number to represent population incline. That's a good thing because it makes sense in our brain. So that's why I did it in that order. Okay, then I'm going to divide that. I'm going to put parentheses around this whole thing. Then I'm going to divide that by the population in 2010. What I've done is said, okay, I'm going to get a number here and decide how much of a change that was from the 2010 population. That's what I think. That is what I said. Okay. Then finally, I'm going to put a parenthesis around all this, and then say multiplied by 100 or times 100. I'll leave that up there for a second. But also, I'm recording this. So parenthesis, double click on population 2010 minus double click on population 2000. Divided by, one parenthesis, then divided by, then double click on population 2010, another parenthesis, multiply asterisk sign, and then 100. Right? Then you say OK, and all those numbers will fly in there on percent change. So what this means is that this county here that I just highlighted, way up north there, that's actually right next to Lake of the Woods, up there in Minnesota. We got this little piece of land over the 49th parallel because initially, when the treaty was negotiated, we thought that the headwaters of the Mississippi were located in that area, but they weren't. We still have that little area. There's a lake right there. Anyway, the population, probably not too surprising. And that area is declining pretty rapidly, almost 15% change over that time period. Okay? You'll notice if I make a real quick and dirty map of this whole area, let's do that. Just go in. I'm going to go to I'll do that in a second. Symbology, quantities, and just say my new field, key change. Here we've got the lighter ones, most of them are negative population areas. And if you'll notice, most of the lighter ones are in this Midwest. I mean, there's some areas where they're growing, particularly over this time period. But there's a lot of areas in the Midwest, even in the South, like actually in our Delta region, the Delta region across in Arkansas and Louisiana, those are declining. Out west is generally growing. Much of the South is growing outside of those the Delta regions and the other regions there. And the urban core is also increasing. All right. Now think about it a second. We learned about color today. We talked about color schemes. It seems to me that this map would be a good candidate for a diverging color scheme. So think about that when you go about making your map. We're not going to get that far. We're not going to go into making the map. The last thing that I want to show you, though, is how to make an inset map. All right? So, we did this before. You did this way back in the, I don't know, first, second, or third lab. Can't think of it off the top of my head, but you made the map of Mississippi, and then you had an inset map of all of Mississippi. So if I go to the map layout, right now, I only have a single map. I might want to do something like go to page setup and make this landscape. Landscape, definitely. I'm going to pan back over here for a second, and I want just the United States. By the way, I probably want to change the projection, just a good clue, but I'm not going to do that right now. All right, so there's my my map. Now, if I want to make an inset map, what I have to do is I actually have to create another data frame and put the information that I want on my inset map in that other data frame. So it might be good to get all the symbology that you want before you do this, because once you do this, you're going to have to create another copy of the layer. I'll show you what I mean here. So if I go back over to this view, and under here I say add new data frame. Where's that? I guess that's under view, data view. It's a data view. No? Insert data frame. There it is. Insert data frame. Okay, so now I have two data frames. If I activate this one, I can see my map. If I go to the other one, I can't see it. So I want to take this map and paste it into my other data frame. So now I have two data frames. So if I activate, go back and forth between them, I can see both of them. I'm going to zoom into Alaska. And one thing I could do, maybe, is change the map projection here to something that's more appropriate for Alaska. Projected, state plane. No, not state plane, because there's several. No, Alaska only has one, I'm pretty sure. Add 27. Nope, Alaska has a ton. That's what, I don't know what I was thinking. State systems. Alaska, Alberts. Good one. Let's choose feet, and we'll choose a feet-based projection for the other one. So now I've changed the projection. You should also change the projection for the other part. So now when I go to this map, I've got both maps there, and I can make Alaska and put it over here. I can make another map of Hawaii. If you do choose to show them at different scales, it might be appropriate. These are different scales. You should have a separate scale bar for your inset map, particularly since the inset map here is still showing important data. The inset map was for reference purposes, like to figure out where you were on the globe. You might not need a scale. In this case, where this is showing data, this is showing data, you want to have scale. Now, if they're all oriented north at the top, don't need one north arrow. I guess if you want to change this projection, you want to include Hawaii. You probably want to change the color scheme. You want to add a good title. Do all the things that we've talked about for a map to get full credit. Now, one additional kind of twist on this is that your map is going to be very large. You can make your map up to 40 inches wide and 22 inches tall. So how do we do that? Well, the reason why I included this is because I wanted you to be able to know how to do this. So we go back into page and print setup, and this is where we change, we can uncheck use paper settings, and we could set this to, I said 40, I think, 22. Say okay. So our map can be very large. So I'll have to zoom back in here. There we go. If I make this guy a little bigger. And then zoom back in on Alaska. Anyway, yeah, play with those. You're gonna have to spend some time getting the sizes right. So that's the first map. Anybody have any questions about that? All right, the second map is that we're going to be, again, mapping the same variable, but this time at the city level. We're still going to be mapping population change. So you can make a map showing the difference in population for cities. You can choose to show as few or as many cities as you wish. You get to determine what size of the city to show. Or, optionally, you could actually show cities that have a larger amount of change or a smaller amount of change. Okay? So just make sure your map title is appropriately mapping appropriate for what you're mapping. So you can also choose the spatial extent of the map. So this map needs to be the entire United States, all the states, all 50 states. This map can be a subset of the United States. Now remember that labeling may be important to this map. This map probably only needs some minimal labels. This map needs some good labels because not everybody's going to know which city it is that you're mapping. So you're going to have to do some labels, and you're probably going to have to go in, like you did with the text lab, turn it into annotation and adjust the labels in order for your map to look professional and for you to receive full credit. Okay? Your map needs to look good. So you can't just use automatic labeling and expect all the labels to be great and in a good position. So go back and look at the rules for where to put labels, and put some effort into making your map look correct. All right. Anybody have any questions about that one? Feel free to send me a draft. Say, hey, am I on the right track here? That's fine. For both. All right, but if you do send me a draft, don't send it to send it to my regular email, george.raber@usm.edu. Don't send it to the graded one, because I don't look at the graded one that often. As I've been grading, I've noticed that I've missed some questions. So I think that might have been confusing. Questions, send to my regular email. All right. Any other questions? Corey, are you around today? Okay. It's hard to tell in the dark room with backlit who all's there, but yeah, that's a summary of the lab. So I'll end the recording here.